is coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and this is Midday with Rev Don. And welcome. I hope you're having a lovely day. If you would like to take part in the conversation, please type your comment or question into whatever platform you're watching the program on, and it will appear in my chat room, and I'll be happy to discuss it, to answer it, to let the conversation go wherever you would like it to go. I'm going to be talking a little more about the ongoing sale of items that I have, but we can also talk about anything else that anyone wants to talk about, and I'm sure that we will have a variety of things to discuss. If you have been watching my Facebook page, facebook.com/RevDonLewis, you will have seen the first altar images go up. There will be more coming later today, and I was very gratified to see the response people have had. The very first one, pardon me, my mustache is shedding. The very first one, the statue for the Horn God, went within 3 minutes of being posted. Hello, Mary, in the chat room. Hathor and Fortuna and Yemaya also went very quickly. There are still, however, several that are available. There is an Isis, there's a Moot, there is a green man and a green woman. There, let me just quickly check and see who I'm forgetting, because I know there's somebody. But all of these are on my Facebook page. Libertas also sold. There's a duality illustrating the idea of polar forces. That is a beautiful altar piece. It can be used as a candle holder, or it can hold a crystal ball or a stone or an incense cone, or it can be used in many different ways. And there is a Benzaiten figure, the Japanese goddess of knowledge. Although I've been told that she is also, this particular statue can be interpreted in other ways as well. So those are the statues that are there. There's still some jewelry that is available. I'll probably be reposting it tonight or tomorrow to make it easier to find. There will be more altar figures coming. There will be more candlesticks and the like coming. I was showing these candlesticks yesterday. They have a blue glass feature. At one time I had an entire altar fitting of blue glass, which is where they come from. There will be other things coming, and I hope that you're enjoying this. People have seemed to be. Last night on the Daily Spell we talked about it, and they titled the Daily Spell "Selling Reverend Don's Life," which was certainly a colorful description. But, in a way, I mean, these are the collections of a lifetime. And for me, I'm starting a new phase of my life. One part has ended, another part is beginning. And some of these things are no longer necessary for me. Others, it's just too much to try to transport them across the country again. And of course, for those parts that, those items that are part of the Corellian heritage, as I've said, I really feel like I'm putting it in the best hands by seeing it go to our Corellian clergy and friends of the tradition. Although so far it's been mostly clergy members and people that I know quite well who have taken pieces, and that is in its own way very gratifying. I'll continue selling through the end of this week. Everything, all of the books, for example, and most of the statuary and so forth must be taken care of within that time frame. I may be still offering smaller artwork and so forth after that. It will all depend how fast we can move. I also have the very large painting Nabamun Hunting Birds that I have been busily working on. I'll post some updates of that for people who want to see what's going on with it, and that's where we're at. Meanwhile, I'm working with Cosmo Rubiconis on the return of Lord Don's Library of Horror, and working on very many different things. And that's where I'm at. Um, and it was very interesting. We were doing the program last night, and people were IMing me to buy pieces, and so rather like at this moment, I was trying to multitask. And I mean, that's where I'm at. So I suppose I'll keep talking on this subject, but if anyone wants to introduce any other subjects, please feel free. One of the things that one of the reasons I have so many altar figures and so many different ritual pieces is that I was always a person who liked to set a new altar for each occasion. I liked to keep it fresh, to keep it beautiful, to keep it constantly changing and evolving. And therefore, I've had altar pieces in all different colors, many different references, and as I would set altars, I would set them constantly differently. If you have been following my media, you'll notice the altar behind me has changed its appearance repeatedly, usually every few months. I change out the altar clothes. I change out the candle holders. I change out the backdrop, and keep it fresh. And to me, that's an important part of ritual. I know other people who feel very differently, and they keep their altar exactly the same way because that gives them a sense of structure and stability, which I certainly understand. But in my mind, it's change and growth that I want to illustrate with my altar. And this is why there are so many different altar figures also, because I certainly wasn't always using just one. And also because I enjoyed creating them. So, so I was saying we have Isis, we have Mut, we had Libertas, we had the horn god in the form of Aries for the spring equinox. We had Fortuna. And we still have a number of them on my page for sale. Others are going to go up today. There is another Yamaya. There should be a Vesta. There should be a Demeter. I just have to open the different boxes and find them. There are a number of pieces yet to come out, and that's kind of where I'm at with that. I'm going through things and I'm putting them up as I can. Edward is still putting up books. There are thousands of books. I suspect in the end some will simply be donated. At this point, I'm thinking I will probably end up donating my furniture, minus the little bit that I hope to take with me. Because, you know, for years now, I've carried this antique furniture everywhere I've gone, and it's not been easy to keep it together. And it just is not necessarily something that is needed for the next phase in my life. Hello to Fluffy in the chat room. Good to see you. Hello to Kazan in the chat room. And yeah, it's going to be a new thing, and we will see how it goes, and you will see, because I will certainly be talking to you through the whole process. I assume that the day that I'm actually physically moving, I probably won't be doing a broadcast, but I'll be doing it on all sides, and you will share this journey with me. And you know, I've said before, and I'll say again, that I don't feel bad about it, because I feel like Spirit has taken a hand in moving these things to where they need to go. and simultaneously giving me a level of freedom I have not previously had. And hello to Lori in the chat room. Welcome. Um, and, you know, as I watch different people acquiring the jewelry that belonged to my mother and my grandmother, and in some cases, my great grandmother, they're the, you know, they're the people I might have given it to. They're the people I want to see have it. And one of the things that I realized is, had I died in February, that is not what would have happened. So I think Spirit has given me what truly needed to happen with these pieces, and so I'm glad to see them going. I've got lots of things still to mail, lots of things coming. Hello to Yahara. Luna Jade in the chat room, welcome. And yeah, I mean, there's a great deal yet to be done. I'm far from ready to move, but we're moving as fast as we can. And my storage space is almost empty. That's unbelievable. And I will still have to go through a lot of things. I have to pack a lot of things. And I have to be on the road by June 7th. So that's where I am at. And we're continuing to do. And I see the question, what time will you be adding more things? My intention is to go out and start photographing right after this program. So I'm going to guess around 2 p.m. to 2:30 Eastern. I expect to add more things today. To do that, I have to first unpack them, then photograph them, then make the posting. And there's a little bit of a process in those things, but not extremely much. So I would say 2 to 2:30, there should be more coming Eastern time. And so, of course, depending what time zone you're in, it will be different by an hour or 2 hours or so forth. But that's what I'm looking at. And so half an hour to an hour after the end of the program, more things will be going up. And then probably there may be more tonight as well. It depends. You know, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Am I flooding the page? I want to make sure people are able to find what's available. I mentioned earlier the jewelry that has not sold. I'm going to post a second time so that it's not so far down on the page where people cannot find it, and move forward with these things. And we will see what more we can get up when we've got the time to do it. And I'm waiting to hear back on an apartment. Once that is resolved, and an apartment is nailed down, obviously, things will move faster. And this is where we are. And interestingly enough, the apartment I'm looking at is just a few doors from the home that Lady Crystal used to live in, where the Mother Temple met for years and years, which is a very interesting thing. And hello to Mike in the chat room. Welcome, Mike. And many of the people in the chat room have also been among the people buying these pieces. I thank you for your support. I've been very, very grateful for people's support, and you know, I've depended on people's support for a long, long time. Most of the years that I have been in office, 44 years, I've really been fortunate to enjoy people's support of different ways. And I hope that you'll continue to support me as I go forward in my career. I certainly have much more to do, and we'll continue working on all of these things, books and artwork and teaching and appearances and broadcasting as I go forward. And I hope to continue talking with you on a regular basis, on a daily basis. Now, Fluffy in the chat room asked if I've done any sort of energy work to facilitate getting the new space. And yes, I have been working for the best possible apartment. I'm hoping the one that I'm looking at is that one. But I'm trusting Spirit to bring me the one that's best for my purposes at this time. And yes, you know, one of the things about me is that I do use metaphysics as an integrated part of my life. Lori has often remarked on how surprised she was when confronted with a choice of desserts after a meal. I ran my hand over the top of them to choose energetically which one I would have. But to me, that's kind of a natural thing. I make major decisions based on messages from the ancestors. And considering what my career has been and what my teachings are, I can't imagine anyone is actually surprised by that, but every now and then someone is. So absolutely, I have used energy to help facilitate getting the best possible apartment. And of course, once I get into it, there will be a house blessing, cleansing, blessing, all that good stuff. And because I very much believe in these things, and I found them quite successful over the years. And I think that when you use metaphysics as part of your everyday life, it brings you a great deal of reward, because you for one thing, you see it working right there in front of you. Hello to Bradley in the chat room. Welcome, Bradley. You know, one of the things that people sometimes say in our community is, I don't believe in such and such. I know such and such because I've experienced it. I don't believe in energy work. I know energy work works because I've done it for so many years with so much success. Either it works or I'm totally delusional. And it's not my impression that I'm delusional. And hello to Magic in the chat room. Same with the existence of life after death, the spirit world. I've experienced these. Therefore, I don't believe in them. I know them. Hello to the Dusty Dud in the chat room. And I think that this is kind of an important point. So if you ask me, do I believe in all these things? Well, the answer is yes. But I believe in them because I know them. I've done them. It makes a difference to have done something. I had someone ask me about telekinesis the other night, or maybe it was the other day. I think it was on this program we were discussing it. And my answer to the question of telekinesis is yes, some people have that, but usually it's unconscious and unintentional. And the few that I've met who can do it consciously cannot do much. But does it exist? Absolutely. How do I know that? Well, I met them. I saw them do it. I've seen them do it unintentionally, and I've seen them do it intentionally in certain cases. I've seen people turn televisions on and off in the age when television was still a thing, purely energetically, without being anywhere near the apparatus, because they could. But moving something across the table, they could not do that. But does the power exist? Can it be used? Obviously. I've seen it. Many of you have seen it too. Once you've seen it, you can't deny it. And the whole poltergeist thing is proof that that power is there to be harnessed. We just need to get better at harnessing it. Has no one harnessed it? Well, it's entirely possible that there are people out there who can use it far more effectively than anyone I have met. But I confine my opinion to my experience in this matter. But I see no reason someone couldn't master it far more significantly than what I have seen. And I think we've all seen people who can do things like change the traffic light unexpectedly, or have electric lights go on and off. But these are sometimes helpful. Magic remarks on traveling through time unintentionally. Yes, I think many people do that unintentionally, often unconsciously, and often without being aware of it. That is definitely something that one can master as a skill. We talk about that in the third degree lessons, where I give basic instructions for it. I did not give extremely in-depth instructions because I feel that if you're going to do that, you need to be very well grounded. But if you're ready for it, the instructions that are given are enough. Um, I've done quite a bit of time magic. Sir Edward is the best chrono mage I've ever met. Um, Fluffy says that they had a friend teach them how to move an airfoil fan on a needle, and I've seen that also. It is absolutely possible to create these physical effects, but to create them in a manner that gives practical use, I think we're still largely working on. And I'm sure there must be some people who can do more than others. And I've certainly met people who can do more than others, but I think this is one of those frontiers we're expanding upon. And I've always said, and I still believe, that we're not here to pass things on without change. We're here to expand them, to grow them, to make them better. I know that there are certain philosophies, certain religions, even certain magical practices which think that you must not change anything, you must not add to it, you must not subtract from it, it must be exactly the same, which frankly to me is stagnation and death. I say that we are here to advance these arts. I've often said that if as a teacher, my students do not excel me in the end, then I have failed them. They should be able to do more than I was able to do because they're standing on my shoulders. I've already taught them what I knew. And of course, I'm still learning. And I haven't yet taught everything. But most things I have taught, and I have seen at least some of my students build on what I myself taught, which tells me that I did well. I've seen people do things that I did not think to do. Not necessarily that I couldn't have done, but it was just moving forward from where I was, and I love that. I think that's wonderful. And when I see traditions that don't want change, they don't want growth, I just kind of shake my head and wait for them to pass because they will. With growth is life, and without growth, there is no life. There is only stagnation and death. So when we talk about magic, when we talk about psychic abilities, this hopefully is a conversation that will be broader in the next generation than it is in this one, and hopefully is broader in this one than it was in the last one, and so forth. And I think that has been true. Now, I do realize that everyone is in their own place. So some people are having their magical and psychic conversations where people were 2 or 3 generations ago because it's where they've entered, and that's perfectly fine. But overall, we need to be moving into the future. And, I once interviewed Alicia Gallo and one of her associates at Llewellyn Publication. And I asked them the question that pointed out that Llewellyn was often criticized for bringing out 101 books over and over again. And could she speak to that? Why was that choice a choice they made? And her answer was that there are constantly new people coming in. They need to have these things restated because they were not there for yesterday's 101 book and probably aren't going to seek it out, but they'll look at the new one. And I think this is very true. We have to remember, to move forward, we have to have several things in mind at once, and they're all very important. One of them is those new people. There must always be new people if we wish to move forward. And we must be accessible to them. We must speak a language they understand if we hope to be understood by them. I've heard so many elders and so-called elders complain that nobody listens to them and the younger generation is terrible. And I have never felt more listened to particularly by younger people than I do today. I find the younger generation of the metaphysical community to be wonderful. And I can't help but think that those so-called elders who feel that nobody is listening to them aren't really speaking to the people they want to listen to them at all. They're speaking to an echo chamber. They're not considering their audience, and they're often too arrogant to consider their audience. They want the audience to come to them. They don't realize that, with very few exceptions, that doesn't happen. And they've also forgotten, I think, the fact that they did not do that themselves. And a lot of people, I think, are presenting the idea that the pagan and metaphysical communities of, say, 30 or 40 years ago were very different than they really were. And as someone who was there, I noticed this. One of the things I've commented upon, there was a meme going around for a while, talking about how scandalized people would have been back in the day if they knew that Becky could get her a sage at Whole Foods or something like that, or at the grocery store. And I've got news for you. 40 years ago, 40 years ago, we would have been thrilled to be able to get any kind of ritual supply at a grocery store. We would have been thrilled to find. We wouldn't have been looking for sage 40 years ago, in the sense that this meme is talking about, because it wasn't used in that way. It was used in other ways, but for cleansing by smoke, at that time, things like frankincense or sandalwood were more common. And I tend to think we should perhaps be migrating back to that. But we would have loved to have found them in the grocery store. The big complaint I remember from 40 years ago was how hard it was to find most of these things, unless you were in a major metropolitan area, and even then it could be hard. Anyone who thinks that the people who were in the community then would not have welcomed greater accessibility obviously doesn't remember the community then, or were not in it. And there are a lot of people who like to talk about how things were years ago who actually were not there. But we would have been thrilled with that kind of accessibility. I've talked about my career in the pagan press many times, and I can remember how excited I was when Man, Myth, and Magic showed up in the local grocery store. It was an epochal moment. It wasn't the first metaphysical things to show up there, but it really marked a level of accessibility that was very exciting. I think somewhere I've still got the very first issue because I snapped it right up. Had to have my parents buy it because but they were happy to do so because they, I believe, felt the same. So the idea that that community loved their secrecy and didn't want things to be accessible, that isn't really true. Might have been true for a few, but not most of us. Most of us would have loved the level of accessibility that people have today. We would have embraced it. But we didn't have that choice. But today's people do, and we need to safeguard it for the future. And there are a lot of forces trying desperately to work against that accessibility. And we need to be mindful of this, and we need to do our own work to help things keep moving forward. And that's where we are. So with that, I see we've come to the end of our half hour. I want to remind you to watch my Facebook page, facebook.com/Rev Don Lewis, and Sir Edward's Facebook page, facebook.com/Ed A. Hubbard, for statuary, ritual items, and books as we continue the sale of my life. Have a chance to own a small piece of me, because we probably aren't going to be selling body parts when I die. So this is as close as you're getting. Although we have discussed that. Fluffy says, thank you. This was delightful. It has been delightful. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And let us close, as we always do, with a prayer. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we ask you to be with us and to help us as we go forward. Help us to hold our place in reality and our place in time, while simultaneously learning to transcend these. Help us to have an eye on the past and an eye on the future as we navigate the present. Help us to remain focused on those things that we need to change and those things we need to carry forward, so that we can lead happy and effective lives, both as individuals and as a movement. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you. And until next time, may you blessed be. I thank you for watching with much love, and until next time, may you blessed be.